Hello, and a warm welcome to the Irish Angle, our weekly discussion show. And as usual, I've Emma Nagle, Johnny Ward with me, all three of us back together. The band is back together, as they say, 'cause we've been missing one or other of us the last couple of weeks. Emma, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thanks,
So
Vinny.
we've
Thanks, Vincent.
lots to go through. We'll start off with Fairyhouse last Saturday. Big gamble. A horse called Great Attitude, trained by Thomas Cleary, back from 125 to 1 into 8 to 1 and won easily in an auction maiden hurdle. It turns out that there was a bit of a link between this horse and a horse that also ran in the bumper, which was back from 12 to 1 into 11 to 10 favourite, but only finished fifth. That was called Stick to the Plan. And there definitely was a plan behind all of this by the look of it, Johnny. What did you make of it?
Yeah, so like my understanding is that the horse in the bumper actually might even be more able than the horse who won the maiden hurdle, and it's very hard to have a horse ready to win a maiden hurdle like Tom Cleary's horse did. But I still find these gambles on run of the mill days. I find them, I think they really add life to a race card. It just shows why bookmakers should be afraid of laying multiples now. I mean, you had that Paul Tobin horse the day of, was it in Tremor? That was the last leg of a four-timer across various trainers that disappointed. Was linked to, I suppose, there were other yards involved in that gamble as well. And sometimes when you see Tom Cleary have a horse in a maiden hurdle first time out, he will be put in at a big price because Tom Cleary wouldn't have many horses running in a maiden hurdle. And Cormac Farrell's horse in the bumper, he wouldn't have been the most obvious type to be a gamble on paper, with Willie Mullins having two newcomers in the race and a very well regarded Barry Connell horse in the race as well. It goes to show the money you can make if it comes off. I heard like there were millions at stake here if it did come off. I spoke to a guy an on-course bookmaker who laid the double. I spoke to another on-course bookmaker who lost plenty on the first race. And it just goes to show that. It also goes to show how very, very hard it is to pull it off. It's very, very hard to pull it off. And ultimately, the horse in the bumper disappointed, but he's probably one to keep in mind going forward. But it certainly added a lot of life to the day all those years after D for Dave.
Yeah. Douglas Taylor, he had that D4 Dave, landed a huge touch, Kilbeggan 2010. But just what's the difference between what went on at the weekend in Fairyhouse and what the likes of Ronan McNally was doing a few years ago that got him 12 years banned from the sport? Like, Douglas Taylor and Cormac Farrell went and bought that horse, Great Attitude, as a store at a Derby sale or whatever, 26 grand in June 2022. They were due to run it last August in a race, but it was lame, so they took it out. And now all of a sudden it switches yard, switches ownership. But obviously, there's still some connection here, is there? Because I see it goes to Thomas Cleary. You've Rory Cleary, his son, rides a lot for Cormac Farrell. I'd say he's most consistent rider to ride for him on the flat the last year or two. So there's obviously a connection there between them. Was it bought? There's no public sale, so we've no idea what really goes on. There's no doubt with people doing the double that the two horses are still connected in some way through ownership or someone knowing what was going on. So what do you make of all that, Emma? It's a lot of shenanigans.
Sure, look, I couldn't speculate on it too much really. I wouldn't know the ins and outs of the ownership of the horse, whatever like that, but thought there was a brilliant line in the interview afterwards. When Thomas Cleary, was he 200 to 1? Geez, I missed that. I don't think too many people in the yard probably missed it. It was well laid out, in fairness. Like a 6-year-old lame, like you said, was due to run the bumper in Cork, so obviously had a few issues, but a horse with big ability, and to line a horse out like that, and like you were saying, it wasn't, they weren't exactly weak races. Like there was odds on Gavin Cromwell favourite, Emmett Mullins had a horse of Paul Byrne, Gordon Elliott was second. They were fairly confident in the horse's ability coming into it, and the same with the bumper. The bumper one didn't work out, obviously, but yeah, same as Johnny, the rumours about the liabilities flying around if this double came off were massive, but I'd say they made a fair few quid on the first horse. And I mean, look, whatever about the transfer of ownership or whatever, I'm sure the IHRB will clear that all up themselves, but at the moment it's just a big touch landed, I suppose, and I like to see them happening. And I know look, people will say maybe crooked Irish racing is what most people are saying on Twitter, but I think everyone likes to see a gamble landed like that.
Certainly a gamble landing the first one. God only knows what would have happened, as you say, if the second one had a 1-2. But there'll be ones to watch out for. I don't know how we watch out for them, though, because we don't know where they're going to appear or whose names they're going to be in. But anyway, we'll move on. Johnny, something that I see is being planned for the imminent future is Greyhound racing is going to be banned in Wales, which it's kind of not too far away from horse racing in its sense. It's coming to the home shores, because we had Greyhound racing was banned in New Zealand previously. But now the Welsh are talking about banning it. Look, it's not going to affect anyone particularly on the greater scale, because there's only one dog track in Wales. But at the same time, Johnny, what do you make of this for the sport in general? Does it affect horse racing at all, do you think?
Yeah, Vinny spoke about this a little bit with Steve on the form scan on Friday. These are worrying kind of indications of where we're going. And Mark Johnson, who I think is involved in Lifford Greyhound track, he spoke about his worries as well. And you know the demise of I did a bit of work in White City in for Odds Checker at times, and Odds Checker do some recording in White City. And when I went there the first time, I had to look up the White City Greyhound track, and I think there'd like 100,000 people nearly at a Greyhound meeting one day in White City. And the loss of all the Greyhound tracks in London, it's very sad. Like I'm not a massive Greyhound fan, but I love A Night at the Dogs, and the fact that they've kind of a lot of people lump Greyhound racing and horse racing together in this kind of welfare mirage, and we do have welfare issues, but the demise of Greyhound racing, given that the Greyhound and horse racing industries are so interlinked in terms of funding in Ireland, it's something we should be conscious of. I've gone to the Dogs at Cheltenham Park and seen protesters outside, and they've absolutely every right to protest, and there are animal rights issues in Greyhound racing as well as in horse racing. But I would be worried about racing in Britain going forward. When Cheltenham comes around in 2 weeks' time, I bet you if you turn on BBC on the Tuesday at Cheltenham, they'll be on about welfare rather than who's going to win the champion hurdle.
Yeah, they possibly will. And you talk about your White City in London and all the rest of it, but you live in Harold's Cross. If that track was still open, I used to go there all the time as a teenager. I used to love going there on Tuesday and Thursday and Friday or whatever it was on. Used to be right bit of fun. It was a cheap night out for people just to go and have a bit of crack at it. You'd be there twice a week, I'd say, if it was open, would you?
3 times.
3 times. There you go. Even better. Anyway, you talk about Cheltenham. We've only got 15 days to go, so lots of things happening, things bubbling under the surface in lots of areas. We see over the weekend, Kawabunga, one of Willie Mullins's JP McManus novice hurdler. He's out for the rest of the season, picked up a setback. Brighter days ahead then, Emma. Looks like there's a possibility we might be looking at champion hurdle. All 4 of these could turn up in the champion. It's heading that way, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of sounding like it. And to be honest, like at the start of the year, I remember when she won in Down Royal, it kind of sounded like Gordon was always kind of all guns blazing to go to the champion hurdle if he could, but it was kind of the O'Learys putting a bit of a dampener on it. But kind of there's been a bit of money in the betting for her. She's shortened up plenty. She's in second favourite now for the champion hurdle. Kind of sounds as if they would, like there was kind of a few rumours floating around the preview circuits that Gordon's going to go. So look, I'm hoping she does, because like if the 4 of them show up there, it'll be kind of a vintage renewal of the champion hurdle. Now we do have a Constitution Hill racecourse gallop tomorrow, which history tells us normally does not go too well. I think he's 0 for 2 on racecourse gallop so far, so just fingers crossed he comes out of that okay. And it kind of sounds as if the mayor will go for it, which will be brilliant. Lisa was on our preview there a few weeks ago, and like she sounded mad for her to run as well. I actually remember her comments after she won in Leopardstown that day, and she was kind of saying, geez, they have to go for the champion hurdle now, they have to go. And it kind of sounds like they'll probably run King of Kingsfield as well to set the pace up. And I don't know, people are kind of talking about, that Supreme where was it Dysart Dynamo and John Bond set it up for Constitution Hill, but like those 2 horses that day fell in a hole. Like this mare isn't going to fall in a hole going that pace, which it'll be a bit different. So it'll be a good spectacle. And yeah, I'm hoping that they'll do it now, because that's kind of, I'd say it sounds like the way they're leaning at the moment anyway.
Yeah, Eddie O'Leary came out the other day. He was talking to the Irish Times, and he said that the right race is the mares, but there's only one champion hurdle. That's been the thing all along, isn't it? There is only one champion hurdle. She has to go for that, really. What do you think, Johnny? What way do you go in this if all 4 run?
Well, I think Cheltenham kind of needs this, to be honest. Like, if you have that pivot race, it's hard to believe we're only just over 2 weeks away now. The Arkle has kind of obviously fallen a bit apart. The the Gold Cup has fallen apart a lot. The Champion Chase, with respect, doesn't look a renewal I get overly excited about this year. Maybe I'm being harsh, but we need that pivot race. And if the 4 of them turn up, which I have to say, I still have my suspicions that they won't. But even if the three at the one of Willie Mullins and the other 2 show up, we need, like, I was brought up, in the year of kind of just before Brave Inca, and that Brave Inca Archibald Hardy Eustace race, like Vinny, I'd almost looked at that race in my head a million times before it came. I couldn't wait for it. I don't know if I've ever looked forward to a race more. And this would be well up there in that regard. I think what Emma's alluding to there, like, you're almost expecting Constitution Hill, like, to to have a fag in his mouth and kind of be coughing tomorrow or something at this gallop, because something might go wrong. But other than that, like, I do feel, and Lisa spoke well about it in the preview, I do feel that Gordon Elliott really wants to win the champion hurdle. I'd put up Stateman anti-post each way, but I'd be amazed if he, to be honest, I'd be hoping he'd finish the first three, but that was on the premise that I didn't think they'd all run. I'd still go with Constitution Hill, but it would depend on the market. I'm not even sure it's necessarily a big betting race. Constitution Hill is very short, but I wouldn't need to have a bet in this, so I'd be really looking forward to it.
I agree. Should be a
I wonder what price would Paul Townend be to ride Stateman versus Lossiemount now? Will he stick with Stateman, do you think?
Hard to know.
Hard to know. He probably does, I suppose, being honest. He probably does stick with Stateman, but gosh, it has to be a tough decision, doesn't it?
He'll leave that to the very last week. That would be right up there.
Yeah. Another one then that I've been fancying this for a long time, William Money, and finally got his money, got his maiden hurdle victory the other day. That was very impressive. Change of rider, of course. Finney Maguire had been riding the horse in bumpers, and for the first couple of hurdle starts, they were good performances, but the horse was a little bit keen in some of the races. Switched the jockey the other day, and we saw a hell of a performance. What did you make of that, Johnny? Is he a contender in the Supreme?
This was a race, Vinny. I think that the Supreme is shaping up to be a hell of a race now. And William Money, like Barry Connell, it's obviously been a very emotional time for Barry Connell in the yard, as he alluded to afterwards. But Tap on the Go, who was what he finished a remote third in the end. Like, there's something about this. Like, I'm going back to when I was getting into racing, and Rhinestone Cowboy used to win races with this swagger like William Money showed the other day. And there was something about that performance. Sean Flanagan's body language, and like Barry Conn was saying after, a lot has gone wrong for him in maiden hurdles. But for me now, he is. I know he's been well backed over the last week or so, but he's a live contender, because I didn't see enough from him previously to suggest that he was able to go through the gears like that. Maybe there are one or two disappointments in behind now, but he's gained a nice bit of experience, and I thought that was I just think he's one of those horses you can imagine being in Cheltenham on the Monday night. A lot of people will be saying this favourite, certainly in the Supreme, and you'll be saying no, actually William Money could be a flying the ointment. A lot of people don't want to back even money shots in the Supreme. He for me, he's a live contender. The gears he showed and the professionalism of him, I thought was a brilliant performance.
Yeah, I thought his first run over hurdles, where he finished second to Work Ahead, the Bromhead horse, who's also towards the head of the market for the Supreme, I thought that was a good performance, because he made a very bad mistake in the race, and it would have been a normal mistake that you might have pulled the horse up from, but he still galloped on, finished second. I thought it was a fair performance that day. The run with Cowabunga, they were a long way clear of everything else. Cowabunga obviously doesn't go to Cheltenham now, but and then William Money, I thought the performance the other day with Sean Flanagan on it, that's what I was hoping to see. I'm still very much in that camp. I think he still might be a small bit of value still in him at 12 or 14 to 1 each way. What do you make of it, Emma?
Yeah, he was impressive, definitely, kind of improving the whole time. He's a horse who they kind of always thought an awful lot about. I suppose maybe a little bit disappointing despite running well and kind of good maiden hurdles, like you were saying. But I don't know, the Supreme looks so competitive at the top of the market. Like that Kopek de Boards for Willie, and Salvador Mundi as well might be a little bit of a forgotten horse, I think, in it. Like he won the Moscow Flyer. I think Willie has a really, really strong hand, and then Romeo Coodio as well, a Grade 1 winner. For Gordon as well. Look, I'd say William Money might be a bit of each way value, but I'd say he'll have a fair job to beat the top three in the market now. I'd say they're fairly solid up there.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, isn't it? 11 days and counting. All right. One last thing, just around Cheltenham, and just the general thing that comes up every year, I suppose, around this time, is wind operations. We have a situation in the UK where if a horse goes to run a race and he's had a wind operation since he previously ran, the trainer needs to declare it. And standard stuff, they don't break it down. We've talked about this before, and Emma was saying about the different types of wind operations. Some are more severe than others. There's little tiebacks, then you all the rest of the things that they do. So they just call it a wind op, which is fair enough, but it gives some indication to a punter that something has happened with the horse. They weren't happy with his wind, so there might be an improvement if they've done a wind operation, where you can make your own judgment on what you think of it. But the Irish horses that go over, we know nothing about the wind operation. There's no doubt many of them have had wind operations. The only thing we do know is when they go and race, if they had one prior to running in Cheltenham after their last start in Ireland, it will be declared. What do you make of that, Johnny? Do you think there should be more done about this? Do you think we should know the historic wind operations for all Irish horses going to Cheltenham, or any other race for that matter?
Yeah, I feel this is. I mean, I often have this vision in my head of if you bring a newcomer to the betting shop and you try to explain what's going on and why such a horse is such a price, and such a horse is such a price, and it's hard enough to explain it at times without kind of maybe putting him or her off gambling forever. But like stuff like this, you show someone he's having his first bet Cheltenham in the Supreme or whatever, and you're like, well, he's had a wind up and it's in the paper, but he came over in the boat today, he's had a wind up, but it's not in the paper because he's from Ireland. I think we need harmony on this. And in fairness, there are various levels of wind ups that one size fits all isn't necessarily ideal, but wind operations for me are a massive part of punting for me. If I see a horse who's fresh from a wind up and he's a short price, for me, that's a negative. Wind operations, some trainers are mad for them, some aren't. But I think it's something in Ireland. I feel we're still a long way away from having enough information about horses. And this, to me, is a no-brainer. I definitely think it should happen. And I think the British have led well in example on this.
Yeah, I agree. Emma, have you any thoughts on it?
Yeah, sure, I'd agree. Like, it's hard to believe that the two systems aren't integrated, to be honest, like when there's so many Irish horses going to the UK on a regular basis. You'd imagine that the BHA and the IHRB or HRI would have kind of brought in the whole information thing at the same time. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense, I suppose. But one thing I'd say the UK trainers probably do, I'd say statistically, I obviously don't have the statistics, but they seem to do an awful lot more wind ups. They seem to do them kind of nearly routinely, just as a precaution more so than as anything else. But yeah, look, it's kind of something basic that probably should have been sorted out the time that the UK bought it in. Ireland probably should have bought it in at the same time. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'd agree with the two of you there.
Yeah, good stuff. Anyway, we'll round it off with a horse to follow that you saw from last week, or something you think coming up that should be worthy of you back. And I'm going to stick with William Money. I think Go Each Way, Supreme Novice Hurdle, very common. You'll get us off to a flyer. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. All right, Emma, what about yourself?
It's not really groundbreaking. Like I think he's gone favourite for the champion bumper. Now I wouldn't be shocked if he skipped the champion bumper. That Game of Inches, I thought he was really, really impressive. Is it the Tisdale family? They have him there with Willie. Like I think they had a lot of horses with pipes, and they moved them over to Willie's then, or some of them over to Willie's at least. So, and they're having a fairly good time of it so far with their couple of runners. But I just thought he was really, really impressive. A 6-year-old obviously had a few issues. By Blue Brezil out of a Flemingford mare, and he actually kind of would remind you of Ballyburn, who won the race 2 years ago. Looked like a big kind of stare more than anything else. Wouldn't be shocked if they skipped. And they were actually talking about going chasing straight away with next year, which would be exciting enough. I suppose he'd be a 6-year-old turning 7. Wouldn't be a bad shout. But I thought he was impressive, and just the way like he finished out his race, he looked like he was only in a hack canter, and the rest of them were flat out in behind. I'd say he could be anything for Willie.
Very good. And Johnny, what tickled your fancy?
Trying to find the name. Can you, like, my internet is brutal here. Can you find the name of Cormac's horse in the bumper on Saturday?
The one that ran, it's called Stick to the Plan.
Yeah. What's it called?
Stick to the Plan.
Stick to the Plan. Right, here we go.
You're going with that. Yeah. You've got the good information. That'll do me.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually go with Stick to the Plan. I'm a firm believer in the accuracy of the markets in racing. Now, there was definitely in the bumper on Saturday, there was definitely a case of liabilities being managed here, and we don't see this much anymore. But if my information is right, Sticks to the Plan, who may be well named down the line, if not on Saturday, he could be quite a promising horse as he looked in his point to point. So he might be a little bit left field, but he's one I'm interested in going forward.
There's actually a nice story. I saw it afterwards. After that bumper, Kaiser Ball, who won for Thomas Costello, there was a good quote on IrishRacing.com. Thomas was saying, I think Michael O'Sullivan must have been riding him out in Willie's all along, and he said to Thomas, the only thing that can get you beat on this horse is yourself. So they were saying he got a bit of help from above in the finish from Michael, because he obviously knew a bit about the horse as well. But I think Thomas Costello bought it as a 3-year-old or something. I just thought it was a nice story.
Well, look, enjoy your day in Punchestown, Johnny, and we'll all be back again next week for more of the same. Hopefully getting very close to Cheltenham at that stage, and let's hope Constitution Hill survives his gallop tomorrow. And we'll see you all again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.